Last 24 hours, we've seen local protests in connection with the war in Gaza, and right at this hour, there is one happening uptown New Orleans.
All right, right now we have Lily Cummings joining us now live from the scene. Lily, we see that this scene is very active. People have been arrested. Tell us what's going on behind you.
Katie, Charisse, it is a chaotic scene on St. Charles Avenue right now. As you can see, NOPD, mounted police, as well as Tulane PD, LUPD are arresting students and demonstrators who are out here right now. We have photojournalist Rick Niesriggins showing you all the wall of students. They have locked arms along St. Charles Avenue, starting to push in further and further on Tulane's campus. So basically, guys, what they did today was they started a rally on Ferret Street. We showed you that live at 5. Then they walked from Ferret down to St. Charles, blocking off traffic. So all traffic was halted riverbound for quite some time. At this point, it looks like traffic is again flowing, but as you can see, these students, these demonstrators are not letting up. We have a large police presence here now, and we've seen several students get arrested at this point on the ground in cuffs. We also have seen cars, as that traffic was blocked, try and get around these demonstrators, jumping the neutral ground at some points. Watch out, Rick Nies. Don't want to get you hit by a horse there. We have seen cars jump the neutral ground, trying to get around these protesters.
And
go ahead.
You guys be careful out there. But tell me this. We saw the one protester and a police officer. It seemed like they were sort of in a tug of war over some property there. Were they trying to set up a tent city outside as we've seen in demonstrations across the country?
Yes, Charisse, that was exactly what happened. So these students, these demonstrators walked down to St. Charles. As soon as they made it in front of Tulane University, the main entrance on St. Charles, they started to set up tents, and that's when things escalated. Officers started trying to obtain that property, and that's when you saw that tug of war happening between students and between officers. And then from there, things just kind of escalated. Again, we saw several arrests happening. We've also seen, as I was saying, cars that tried to jump the neutral ground and hit these protesters with their car. NOPD stopped them and said, license and registration, please. Again, you can hear these loud cheers. Honestly, estimating how many students exactly are out here is hard to say, but I'd say between 100, 200 at this point. Definitely dozens. We spoke to students at UNO earlier today who were holding a peaceful demonstration. They said that they would be joining in, some of them, to this rally that you're seeing in front of us now. So it's easy to say that students from across the New Orleans metro are on Tulane's property right now, a part of this large crowd that you're seeing.
Now, Lily, we did see some arrests, obviously, in Jackson Square overnight as well. These protests look very different from what we have seen in the past. Tempers escalating. This is a pretty tense situation out where you are.
It's definitely tense, as you can see kind of this wall. These students locked arm in arm with police facing them, trying to make sure that they don't inch any closer to the university. It's hard to say, guys, how long that this is going to be happening. Last night, like you said, as we were out at Jackson Square, the gates of Jackson Square were closed at 7 p.m., and those protesters had tents set up, an encampment set up, about 10 tents, 3 dozen or so protesters, and they would not leave. So NOPD came in, and as you saw last night, 12 people arrested, 5 NOPD cops injured in that happened last night. So definitely, as you said, Katie, things have seemed to escalate over the last 24 hours here in New Orleans.
Lily, I know that you've spoken to some of the students that are out there. We know that some people are students and some people are just protesters that have joined in on this cause. How many police officers are you seeing out there? Because I guess from the view that we have, the vantage point that we have, we don't see as many, but we see more enforcements coming up.
I see probably at least a dozen Tulane police officers on scene, and then you can see at least 4 NOPD mounted patrol back here behind us as well. LUPD had a presence blocking off roads as the students marched from Ferret to St. Charles. So easy to say, guys, probably 2 dozen officers at least out here at this point, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw more like last night. We saw additional NOPD officers come out to Jackson Square. Then we saw Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office as well as LSP come out to Jackson Square as things escalated last night.
We heard from Mayor Latoya Cantrell earlier today, just a little while ago, in fact, about how she felt the response was handled last night, handled well by New Orleans police. She praised them for the way that they handled it. Of course, nobody wants to see anyone injured in these protests, but you know, she is saying good things about the police officers, giving them high marks for how they responded last night. Now, these are obviously Loyola and Tulane police. It's slightly different from the NOPD, but NOPD is certainly playing a role out there. It seems like things have calmed down a little bit, Lily. Is that accurate?
Things are calming down as far as right now, just chanting that's happening. I know you mentioned Tulane Loyola, but I do have to say NOPD Mounted Patrol has followed these students, Katie, all the way from Ferret down to St. Charles, so they're keeping an eye on things out here as well.
But Lily, I have to just ask you, you've had an opportunity to listen and speak to some of the students at Tulane and Loyola. We know that similar protests are happening at Columbia University in New York City and major universities across the country. What is it that students are saying to you right now that they're demanding from their respective universities?
Well, as we were at UNO earlier today, they were talking about they want to see universities divest their investment from Israel. They also were explaining to us at UNO earlier today that, you know, they're a smaller university, but they have a large Palestinian community on campus, and so they wanted to support that community, hold a peaceful rally, like I said earlier today at UNO, that started about 2 p.m. at their library lawn. They were explaining to us that it was really just about showing up, showing support, giving speeches, chanting, nothing like what we're seeing out here at this hour at Tulane University.
Okay, so what are general thoughts, Lily, on what the students are saying largely? I mean, you just mentioned that they want to divest Israel and Israeli funding from the universities. These are national tenets that we've seen in these protests that have been going on all over America because of the war in Gaza. A lot of ties in this area to Israel and Palestine in New Orleans, so I know that this is a heated issue. People's hearts are really at the center of this. So anything else that you're hearing from them that people at home may benefit from?
Yeah, it looks like they're banding together right now. I don't know if they're necessarily just lining up or banding it together.
It seems to be that they are, like I said, locking arms and kind of creating almost like a wall or a shield between them and the officers at this point. Tensions do seem to maybe have died down just a bit from what you all saw here at the top of the 6, but obviously that could change quickly at any given second. It looks like we've got some more, I'm seeing at least a dozen more NOPD officers on foot walking up from the Audubon Park area towards Tulane right now.
Now, Lily, talk about the umbrellas that we're seeing there, because is it raining or is that part of the protest?
It is raining. It's been raining since this started around 5 p.m. on Ferret Street, so everybody does seem to be having a little bit of their rain gear on, Katie, but right now those umbrellas seem to be being used to create kind of that barrier, like I said, between students and police.
All right, it seems like it's a little bit of a standoff. For anybody that's just joining us right now, we're giving you a live look in front of Tulane and Loyola, where students, what our Lily Cummings says is maybe hundreds of students out there protesting against the war in Gaza. Of course, these are students who are asking their respective universities to divest away from Israel, and of course, we've seen these demonstrations, talked about them happening not just here, but at several university campuses across the country, unfortunately resulting in multiple arrests. And there were many arrests that happened last night, or more than a dozen that happened in Jackson Square.
Absolutely. Now we're seeing an increased police presence